Hello, welcome to Casual Veteran Gamer. A few days ago I was sent an email completely random, completely out of the blue, and one of you watching sent me a Ranger build they wanted to share. Now they put a fair bit of effort into this, typed this all out, and I thought, what more can I do than actually show off this build to everyone who watches? So I'm going to go through how to build it, maybe some strengths, show it off a little bit, give maybe any downsides, give maybe some alternatives, and then that'll be that. I will be cheating, literally cheating, to create this video. I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't have time to go and level up to level 4 for every new build that comes in or that I think of. So I will be just adding experience. So what is this build? This build, I'm going to go through it, I think screen by screen, because that's how they've given it to me in the email. So to begin with, character name. They didn't specify a character name. So as far as I'm concerned, they're called Tav. Didn't specify male or female, obviously doesn't matter. But the first real choice we have is what background. They chose folk hero. And I think it's for the proficiency. Well, background's always for proficiencies. But we'll get to their class soon. I think it fits well with the class anyway. We're going to pick a high elf, not high elf. We're going to pick a half elf. Pick a wood half elf, which gives us an extra 5 feet of movement, which is nice, and proficiency in stealth, also very nice. And we also get to choose 2 stats to increase by 1, and the person who sent me this said increase the strength by 1 and dexterity by 1. Alright. Appearance, whatever, not specified, just going to leave it to save time. Class, this is where it gets interesting. So, Ranger is what was chosen. Now, for favoured enemy, they said Bounty Hunter. Also said don't have to pick Bounty Hunter, but will lose Investigation. I think the point for choosing Bounty Hunter is for the Investigation proficiency. Like, we're stacking up proficiencies here. What else could we choose? I mean, we could choose Magebreaker for Arcana. I don't put any real value in the True Strike cantrip, and neither does the user, I don't think. They didn't mention it anyway. And this creatures you restrain have a harder time escaping. I don't think that comes up in the game. Anyway, we're going to go with Bounty Hunter, since that's what they suggested. And then Urban Tracker. Again, I think this is to do with proficiency in the Disguise Kit and Thieves' Tool, so the Disguise Kit isn't in the game at the moment. So already we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 proficiencies, which is very high. I don't think many of the classes can get that many proficiencies at level 1. Unfortunately, we don't have expertise for rogues currently. So that's the class chosen. Skills. When we come to the skills, there's almost no choice. I could switch any of Insight, Nature, or Perception to Athletics. And they actually didn't want to have Nature, have Athletics instead. And that's there. Then to the abilities. So the abilities say 14 strength. Where are we going to take this from? Let's bring these down. 14 strength, 16 dexterity, 14 constitution. They did say that in their idea is they could agree to putting down intelligence to 8, put up charisma to 12, and maybe even give this character the headband of intellect, which means their stats would be 14, 16, 14, 18, 12, 12, which is obviously very good. So already here we're getting some alternatives coming out. I'll go into maybe more serious alternatives later. I'm going to leave it like this, because this was the first idea that this person had. So the idea is actually at level 1 we don't get to see any of what they want to come on board, because we're relying on some spells and our choice of class, a subclass at 3rd level. So I'll come back when I'm at the level 2 leveling up screen. So here we are at the level 2 leveling up screen. So first of all, class passives, they went for dueling. The idea here is that the Ranger will be wielding a one-handed weapon, going to be a rapier, being level 16, and having a shield to increase the armor class. So since they've only got a one-handed weapon, they're going to get +2 damage rolls with the weapon. Spells, very much instructed to take Hunter's Mark and Longstrider. And this is another reason for taking just a single weapon and Duelist, or dueling, not Duelist, so that the bonus action can always be free for Hunter's Mark. So we're going to try and stack as much damage as we can onto our melee attack. And look at that, level 3. Here, again, instructed to take Colossus Slayer. Once per turn, your weapon attack deals an additional 1d8 damage if the target is below its hit point maximum. So again, currently in early access, we only get 1 attack per turn. So we've got dueling, adding an extra 2 damage, Hunter's Mark an extra 1d6, and often Colossus Slayer an extra 1d8. The spells, it says, spell optional. I probably would take Jump. We're going to have concentration on Hunter's Mark basically all the time, so Fog Cloud and Ensnaring Strike are kind of out of the picture. And the other spells just really aren't that good. So I will stick with Jump. And then on to level 4. Not actually going to do an ability improvement. They chose Defensive Duelist. When you are attacked with a melee attack, you can use a reaction to increase your armor class, potentially causing the attack to miss. So what it actually does, when you're attacked with a melee attack, you can use a reaction to increase your armor class by proficiency bonus, so currently 2, potentially causing the attack to miss. And that's the only choice we get at level 4. So if we come to... I'm always going to the wrong screen, hitting the wrong button. At the moment, our armor class is only 14, because we've got leather armor and +3 bonus from dexterity. Now we turn that on. It hasn't appeared yet, but during any battles, our armor class potentially does go up by 2. Alright, the next thing I'm going to show you is what equipment is needed. And again, going to be using cheats to spawn items in. So the items specifically mentioned. Now it says using Gith armor of medium armor of +1, but I think really they just mean the Yankee half plate, because that is kind of an equivalent armor class of a +1 medium armor. Rapier +1, which makes sense, and Crusher's Ring. Also mentioned is shields. Sometimes when I've been spawning in these shields, they don't actually equip in the right place. Just going to see if I can change that. I'm not sure that I can. This works when I was testing this out before recording, but never mind. Point is, the shield is in theory equipped. Now and that's it. This is all the equipment they recommended. But this does leave us with a few slots, especially the boots and the necklace, and potentially a headband, free to customize as we wish. For now, I'm just going to go around and use this. Obviously, I'm in the tutorial section, so it's going to do a bit better than it would do later, but we can still show off most of the main points of this build. I also spawned in a heavy crossbow +1 because we can get those fairly handily. First thing to note is that part of the draw of this build is the movement speed, so you should definitely make sure you have Longstrider cast on you. You don't have to have the Ranger do this. You can get other classes to do this. Druids and Wizards both have Longstrider as well. So this isn't, you don't have to completely rely upon the Ranger to do this. So base movement speed in feet is 55 feet. The person who sent me the email sent it to me in meters, 17 meters, which is massive. It's almost double the movement speed of a of a medium-sized character. It's over double the movement speed of a small character, such as a halfling or dwarf, who normally have a movement speed of 25 feet. So this build is going to have a lot of mobility. Also, do remember we can take dash action. There are some boots much later in the game that give you dash as a bonus action, which could also be useful. But also boots that give Misty Step. Was it boots? Sorry, not boots. There's a necklace that gives a Misty Step as well, which will definitely come in handy. Alright, let's see how she does in this fight to begin with. Lae'zel's joined us. I'm going to send her away. I could level up to level 4, but the point of this isn't to see Lae'zel. The point of it is to see this level 4 Ranger. So we get surprised in this first round of combat. Sorry that they've got the shield and sword in the same hand. So with this movement speed, we're easily able to catch up to the first imp. Now, I would expect to be able to kill these imps mostly in one hit. But let's see the damage, right? Let's see how this stacks up. So out of 2d8, I rolled a 2. Not that great. But +1 from the +1 rapier, +3 from the dexterity modifier, +2 from the character weapon damage boost. That's the dueling. And +3 from character, that's from Hunter's Mark. And this next time I hit this enemy, we're going to have an extra 1d8 on top of all of that. Alright, let's see what happens. Now, I just got hit by a melee attack. I'm just going to see whether... Yeah, this doesn't necessarily always work. This isn't a problem of the build, it's a problem of the reactions. There we are, right. Defensive Duelist. Now, automatically, it's 21. At the moment, Defensive Duelist works in a way it shouldn't really work. I've just turned it on. I've just given myself an extra 2 armor class, which is great, actually. Let's try and kill this imp. So 6 damage. This is something I actually did send a few emails back to this person. Colossus Slayer didn't proc here. Colossus Slayer didn't work. And this isn't a problem with the build. This is a problem with the game. We've got 1d6 from Hunter's Mark, 1d8 from the weapon itself, but there's no second 1d8 here. And Colossus Slayer, let's just be clear about this. Where's it gone? Here it is, Colossus Slayer. Once per turn, your weapon deals an extra 1d8 damage if the target is below its hit point maximum. And this imp was clearly below its hit point maximum, it only had 1 hit point left. Now in the tutorial section, I really don't expect them to hit very much, because yeah, armor class is very high. They're getting -1 intelligence modifier. Oh, it's because it used fireball. Right. So let's move along. Reapply Hunter's Mark. Make sure we get... There we are. Again, no Colossus Slayer, but there shouldn't have been Colossus Slayer here because the imp was on 4 hit points. Seven hit points. Again, that's fairly good damage. Alright, I'm going to move on to something a bit more difficult. I might come back again at the end of the tutorial section. So here we are, the last section of the tutorial. I actually ran through all of it just to come straight here. We'll see just how quickly this range tab can get through all these imps. So that was fairly decent, except I forgot to cast Hunter's Mark. That's my own fault. Right, high armor class there of 19. Let's see if in between turns I can turn on Defensive Duelist. No. Which is to be expected, which is fine. Alright, I leveled up Lae'zel to level 4 as well. Because why not? Alright, this high movement speed being used again. This is always going to be useful. There will never be a time where high movement speed is not wanted. And killed. Right, let's have a look. So, yeah. As expected, everything's there. Just I managed to roll high enough, and I've still got some movement left to get to the next one. This is a bit broken, really. I shouldn't just be able to turn this on in a battle and have +2 armor class. This doesn't even use up my reaction, I don't think. Anyway, right. Reapply Hunter's Mark. 8 damage, not bad at all. Right, let's try and hit again. Aha, this time we got Colossus Slayer just here. This is quite funny. I'm not sure how to work this one out. We'll go through both sets of damage, right? Actually, that's all good. Weapon damage 15, minus 8. Oh, that's how it works it out maybe. Minus 8 to give 7. Then the Colossus Slayer is 3, minus 8, minus 2? Equals 1 piercing damage. Right, what I like about this build, the movement speed, really, really good. It does depend on Crusher's Ring, but I mean, someone's got to have it. But I do think it's a good choice to have on this particular character, because they can be running into danger with a fairly consistently high armor class of 21. 21 is nothing, is not an armor class to be sniffed at. So quick look at how it does this damage. Yeah, so it's doing this damage. Right, I see what's happening. I think this is doing 5 minus 7, but that 7 is just a carryover from before by the looks of it, and then minus 3, which is what it should be. It should be minus 3, which equals 2 damage. Anyway, it's the high. Well, it's not overly high, but kind of high dexterity. Actually, I'm going to throw him just to give him a bit more breathing room. The high dexterity helps with the armor class, although at plus 3 dexterity we don't get all the dexterity bonus into armor class. But it does allow the ranger, if needed, to use ranged weapons decently enough. Although I could run up to the commander and hit him, or I can use my bow. This probably won't hit. Yeah, but if it had hit, Colossus Slayer can still be used. Hunter's Mark can still be used. We've got a decent enough strength to be jumping around and, well, we're not throwing very much, but we've got a decent jump distance. And we've got lots of damage stacked up. We've got a +1 weapon. We've got the Duelist. We've got Hunter's Mark. We've got Colossus Slayer. We're going to be doing a lot of damage in one go. When we eventually get to level 5 and have 2 attacks per turn, that would be better, but we don't get Colossus Slayer on every single attack, so that's something to watch out for. Any downsides? This require the half plate from the Githyanki from Lae'zel, but you don't have to take that from Lae'zel. We can get equivalent +1 armors later in the game, so that isn't so much of a downside. The Rapier +1, I find there are quite a few characters who could use that weapon, so you are going to be fighting for that. So this is one lovely thing, there's so much movement, so we've got Longstrider and Wood Elf stacked up. That's a real positive here. Oh, critical miss. It's going to happen at some point. One, I guess, small downside. There's more downside of a ranger than this particular character, but we've got to use 2 out of 3 spell slots every day to get to this position. And in early access, that's 2/3 of your spell slots gone. I would understand the argument that those spell slots are worth it, because Longstride is great. Hunter's Mark is almost essential to most rangers. Just attack. So let's look how fast you can run. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's the trick here, I think, is to let this Cambion catch up and then run back the other way past it. So it's got 40 feet of movement. And you only need to move just over 7 feet probably. I'll probably move as far as I can then. Nice. Colossus Slayer. And so now when it comes to the ranger's turn, I can jump the other side and run away. I could even dash, which is going to be absolutely ridiculous, just how far they can run. So let's see that actually. Let's get a tiny bit closer. So we can jump very far. And then just just gone. Like, that Cambrian's got no chance. So look at that. Not bad, not bad. 9, 11 damage against something that's resistant to damage. That's 22 damage. Like, the damage is significant. The only real downside, I think, to this build is that it doesn't have any area of effect capabilities. It's purely focused on taking down one enemy at a time. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you're going to have other members in your team who will be able to deal with large groups of enemies. Alright, I've come off the Nautiloid and I can decide to fight these two Intellect Devourers. First thing, important thing for me, is that the shield is now in the proper hand. I haven't got the silly graphical bug. And I've already killed one of the Intellect Devourers. I didn't capture it, but I thought I would just show you the rest of this battle. So using a bonus action means we don't need to worry about missing an attack with our offhand. Try and maximise damage. Also want to make sure we've got Defensive Duelist on. There we are. So now our armour class goes up by 2. And 17 damage. That's amazing. With one lucky roll, one fairly average roll, 7 and 4. Colossus Slayer didn't work there. I've kind of complained about that earlier in the video. But from what I've seen before, is that Colossus Slayer often applies after this line of damage. So my guess is the game makes a check as to whether the target has got missing hit points after this hit and then applies Colossus Slayer. But since I killed it, there's nowhere to apply Colossus Slayer. Now obviously in this fight it's a little bit unfair because I am level 4, these are just level 1 Insect Devourers, they don't have a huge number of hit points. But saying that, they're not really much of a problem. There we are. And I just want to point out, on a critical hit, let's look at all these. We do get double the weapon damage. 2d8 was rolled instead of 1d8. But from Hunter's Mark, only 1d6 was still rolled. And after the battle, we've still got a Defensive Duelist of +2 armor class. I don't know if they are going to change that, whether that's... It's basically, it is a bug. Because it's only apply for 1 turn, I believe. Let's just double check that. Where we are, Defensive Duelist. So actually this says when you're attacked with a melee attack, you can use a reaction to increase your armor class by 2. Potentially causing the attack to miss. Implying that it's just that one attack that's going to have the increased armor class. But we've got it permanently. So whether this stays or not will actually make quite a big difference to me whether I would take Defensive Duelist or not. If it stays as it is, then I think it's a decent enough choice, +2 armor class most of the time. If not, I would probably take at least the ability score improvement in dexterity. Alright, I'm also going to just see what I can do. I've got the Ranger build here all by itself. I managed to pick up Gale to the Abjuration Wizard just to check out a query someone had. And I'm just going to see how well the Ranger does by herself. Against 4 enemies. Again, they're level 2, but they can be fairly dangerous because they've got good abilities, especially Gimblebok can hit pretty hard. Maybe the others aren't so dangerous. This lady here is a Warlock, she's got Eldritch Blast. Right, let's see how we get on. Now part of this is because I initiated combat, I've got Surprise, which is why I didn't use Hunter's Mark first. So what I'm hoping that what I might be able to show you is that I'll be able to get to the Warlock over by the stairs without having to fight these two. Now if I was playing by myself in the party, I would probably try and hide because no one won't come towards me, but I don't want to try and use that tactic. I just want to try and improve... Oh, their movement speed is 40 feet, so just going to move her back a bit. Alright, they're going to be surprised. Actually, I'm just going to skip another turn. Just give them a bit more of a chance. Also helps me to run past the two in the middle, to be honest. So without using dash, I can get all the way to there, and if I use dash, I'll be able to run all the way over to there. I won't be able to do any damage necessarily, because there's going to be at least one opportunity attack. And this is a problem of just running past two people rather than just one. But let's try it. I've still got defensive duelist. I want to run past this guy because he's slightly less dangerous. Oh. That's his slightly less dangerous, and he is slightly less dangerous, but I need to get over these twisting vines. So Gimmelbock's going to have a swipe at me. I'm hoping that my high armor class will essentially prevent him. It was a hope. Prevent him from hurting me. That those two down there are never going to be able to catch up. Having this much movement speed is very powerful indeed. So get as close as I can. Alright. Again, my armor class hasn't been helping here, sadly. What? If they can't see me. I should not have crouched here. I can't use Hunter's Mark. This is probably the main thing just to be wary of when using, if you use this build, is your bonus action is very important for using Hunter's Mark. Thankfully, because this Warlock has not a lot of hit points, it's not too much of a problem. But if you jump, you can't use Hunter's Mark. If you hide, you can't use Hunter's Mark. If you shove, you can't use Hunter's Mark. So you do have to be very, very careful. And the good thing about having this very large movement speed is you could be in control of when you engage with the enemies. You can work it out ahead of time as well. So they can move 40 feet. I don't quite have enough movement speed to get all the way there. But I can see they're 43 feet away. So if I just wait here... Well, I was assuming they'd come running towards me. They're not going to. Fine. I probably should have applied Hunter's Mark last time. And with a dexterity at 16, not going to be too bad at using a bow. No. Gimmelbock's armor class just happens to be relatively high. Oh no, not as high as I thought. Sorry, only 14. Okay, I don't know what's happened here. They've kind of bugged out. They're just not coming to attack me. Maybe if I'm out in the open a bit more, or a bit further back. So knowing that enemies have got 40-foot movement range, you can try and make sure they can't reach you. Yeah, I did 16 damage because of Hunter's Mark there. Ah, here he comes. I don't expect that Colossus Slayer will work, because if I hit Gimmelbock, I will assume I'll hit him. Kill him. Yeah, 15 piercing damage, and that's a very decent amount of damage to do. 15. Most, unless you're using spells, you won't be getting 15 damage an awful lot of times. But I think I've already mentioned it. The downside is it's only to one enemy. The level difference here is quite large, so again, I could very much understand any arguments saying, "Oh, but look, like it's 1 against 4, but a much higher level." But normally being outnumbered is quite a big disadvantage. And then we're done. The main point of this was to show off the mobility. I can get from one side of the battlefield all the way to the other while only taking one hit in the middle from an opportunity attack. Obviously, if I'd used the jump spell here, I really should have done that, I think. If I'd used the jump spell, I could easily have jumped over or past more than one of them. Although it's saying that in this particular situation, if I jump from up there down to here, I will be in trouble. Maybe you could have jumped across the gap. But mobility is a big thing for this particular character. Okay, so here I've used the cheat engine again to, this time, there's a cheat to respec the character. So I want to use this maybe to show off a alternative idea for this build. Not necessarily better, but just a different way of doing this. So putting strength up to 16 instead of having dexterity at 16. So why might this be an alternative? So first of all, we're using medium armor, and the maximum bonus from dexterity we can get from medium armor without any feats is 2. So putting 2 extra strength, changing the dexterity of 16 to strength of 16, we're not losing any armor class. We're also not losing any damage from the melee weapon, because even though the rapier is finesse, we can use strength, and strength will be used if it's higher. However, I haven't forgotten the fact that our to hit bonus and damage bonus for ranged weapons is lower by 1, but the main point of this build is to be using the melee weapon. It is to get the extra 2 damage from that one-handed weapon that we're using. So I don't see it as too much of a downside. Like, we're not trying to rely on our ranged damage. So, well, kind of then what's the point? It means, I don't have any weapons on me right now, it means we can use any one-handed weapon. We're not limited to a rapier. We could use a battle axe, we could use a longsword, for example, a warhammer, which then gives us a greater choice of weapons to be using. Secondly, obviously this is only a normal longsword, right? And not a longsword plus 1. Take it all. So we can see here, the melee attack is plus 5. If I have the rapier plus 1, it should be plus 6. Yeah, because it's a plus 1 weapon. So the strength, we're not limited to finesse weapons. And there are other benefits of having a higher strength. First of all, our carry weight will be 320 instead of 280, which is always going to be nice. We'll be able to jump further. It's 25 feet with 16 strength. I'll have to go and check what it is for 16 dexterity. To do that in a second, which will then increase our jump distance. Now, I forgot to choose extra spells on a respec for the character, so I'm going to have to reload if I want to show this properly. And also potentially pick up heavier items. We also do lose out a plus 1 bonus to our initiative. I'm just really trying to point out that using strength is viable. It also means if you want to, in the future, not in the early access but later in the game, if you're following this, you put your strength up to 18, you could then use some decent heavy armors. That will eventually be released. At the moment, the heavy armors are not very good, so medium armor is quite blatantly the best choice right now. But if you have the high strength, you will gain access to heavy armor. But if you were to do that, you would then need to take the Ranger Knight build. Let's see if I can respec the character again. Right. Where is it? Class. Because at the moment we've picked Bounty Hunter. With the Ranger Knight, we get proficiency in history, but we'd lose proficiency in investigation. I'd argue investigation is probably better, but we can get proficiency in heavy armor with a ranger. Are there any other? I mean, maybe you could have Beast Tamer instead of Urban Tracker. We're losing proficiency, but we're gaining a limitless familiar. And we're not a Beastmaster, so actually this is a really useful addition to have. The familiars will be essentially almost acting like a cantrip. We can just cast it again and again, which will always be, again, very useful. Otherwise, I wouldn't want to change this build too much. You could play around with the intelligence and the wisdom and the charisma. At the moment, we've actually picked spells that don't rely on wisdom. Strength or dexterity, kind of up to you. I like the fact we've got all these stats at 10 or above, and I really like the fact that we've got the physical stats at 14 or 16. One other alternative could actually be the mobile feat. For several reasons. One, we get an extra 10 feet of movement, which stacks. We'll be 65 feet of movement every turn. Amazing. It also means we can dash through difficult terrain, and it doesn't slow us down. There's not loads of difficult terrain in like every single battle, but there is difficult terrain in several battles. It's not like it's not used either. It's not there. So this can be useful. And in the fight we just had, it means we can actually evade 2 opportunity attacks in a turn if we jump past one creature, attack another creature, and then we can keep on moving. So I'm actually just going to quickly check this out. And I've still got my strength, but we have lost defensive duelist. Our armor class is lower. So it's not necessarily a better choice by any means. So there's our 65 feet of movement. So I've entered into the Shattered Ruins. Actually, I'm just going to switch to the Rapier +1. And I've got the mobile feat. Just to double check this. Mobile, here we are. If you move after making a melee attack, you don't provoke an opportunity attack from your target. And I've got the extra 10 feet of movement. I don't think there's any difficult terrain in this particular battle. On it. No, that's not difficult terrain. Yeah, nothing here yet. And just to point out, I've got 65 feet of movement in meters. I guess that would be 21 or 22 meters of movement. Again, these guys are only level 2, they haven't actually got that many hit points, but it is going to be 6-on-1. Which, even for level 4, could be quite difficult. So I'm going to be trying to use my movement speed to be running around, making sure I'm either out of view or out of range for most of the attacks. Now, they're all surprised still. Take these down. One at a time. Well, that was the hope. So with this movement, I've still got 56 feet of speed. I've got to bear in mind, they've got 40 feet. So only just about outrun them. So I'm just going to run as far away as I can, because most skills don't have a range of greater than 60 feet. And they're still going to be surprised. So what I can do, because of my lovely massive range, attack from afar, do some damage. Now, if I was being kind of like cheesy, I'd probably hide at this point. But they know where I am, I'm going to let them come to me. But because I'm so far out of range, I don't even need to hide. I didn't realise this would happen, actually. This happened in the previous battle as well. Anyway, they're trying to get to me. Some of them aren't moving. I think the AR's a bit messed up when they've only got one target. Also, if you ever thought about using poison, it uses a bonus action to apply it. So it's not necessarily going to be easy to use. So since I've got the strength of 16, not dexterity, my hit chance with a ranged weapon is 65%. With a melee weapon is 70%. This is what I was talking about earlier. Hey, that was nice. And because of the critical, did loads of damage. Enemies with bows don't have the opportunity to have opportunity attacks. Didn't do that on purpose. So I can just run away for a bit. Also, hopefully going to show off, since I've kind of got a bonus action spare, I can jump all the way over to here. So taking into account movement speed from jump plus the 65 movement speed, well, it takes 10 feet of movement to jump. So we can move 55 feet, and if we use jump another 25, so a total of 80 feet of movement. Anyway, here come the other people, not moving their full potential, the full movement speed. Ooh, just about in range for having something thrown at me. And fired at me. So that was my own fault for not getting out of line of sight. I probably should have gone around the corner. Maybe some of you are laughing at me right now. Right. To get up to here, it's 41 feet. I've only got 65, so I can come here, attack, and run away. Or if I'm feeling a bit more cautious, I could maybe hide, not hide, but come around the corner and hide. Obviously hiding would just mean that I just get to attack for free. I'm not going to use jump. Not right yet. Anyway, not right now. because I need bonus action for Hunter's Mark. And let's have a look at the damage without Hunter's Mark. I did 15 damage. I would have killed Mary, but you wouldn't always be facing enemies with kind of only 12 hit points, because 12 isn't very high. Right. Try and get around the door. Still not coming after me. Anyway, with this very high movement speed, the enemies are getting confused. Which is obviously very nice for me. Now he's staying quite far out. It's got 12 hit points again, but let's just increase our chances as much as possible. Of course it's a miss, of course it's a miss. But because of the high movement speed, I can run back around this corner. And the armor class still isn't actually that bad, right? 19. 19's pretty good actually, especially at this level of play. Try again. There we are. 13 this time. And I've still got, what's this? 36 feet of movement, plus an extra 15. This is where the extra strength comes into play. I'm just going to try and get in their face and see what happens now, alright? Am I getting a bit of trouble? That was just a bit lucky, really. So, who are we going to kill? I'm going to go after Hasid. What? That's unfair. Ooh, didn't do so well. Because I rolled a 1 on the 1d8 and 1 on 1d6. Right, concentration broken. This is why we want a high armor class. So defensive duelist is useful. And then just to really prove my point, you're in trouble. What do we do, right? Try and move without having an opportunity attack against us. We jump. We dash. And we run away. And to be able to flee from combat, we can do it. You're in complete control of any combat. You can go into combat, kill someone, run away, and literally flee from combat. Go and have a rest and go back. The mobility of either of these builds is going to be its strength. Okay, time for some final thoughts. I just want to outline the pros and cons one more time. Good things about this build. I've still got the mobility feat here, but we've got a high movement speed. We've got a relatively high armor class, and we can do a decent single target damage almost every round. Most of the features of this class are kind of very passive, so you're not going to have this high movement speed and this high damage just for 1 or 2 turns. You're going to have it basically every combat against every enemy. The only major downside to this build in either form is it's only got a high single target damage. We can't really be doing damage to lots of creatures at once. But that's what other members of the party are for. This build is really good at focusing on single targets and getting rid of individual enemies, which is really useful if you can. You want to take out enemies one at a time. For every round, this is from the mobile feat. The mobile feat doesn't actually work. Can't make an attack opportunity against its most recent attacker. It seems like mobile foe's been put onto the wrong creatures here. So yeah, at the moment, early access, just found out this mobile feat doesn't work. Never mind. Anyway, let me know what you think of this build in either form, especially with the one that the person sent in, because that was nice of them to create that and send it to me. Do also let me know how you feel about kind of the length of this video, because I really tried to show off and give examples of where this build works and what it can do. But I also do realise that it means it's a slightly longer video than what I normally create. Right, that'll be it for this time. Nice critical hit to end on there, with quite a lot of damage done. Hope you've learned something, hope you enjoyed it, and also hopefully see you in the next one.